Welcome back, everyone, to Orthodox Review, the most educational, no, uneducated. I don't even know my own catchphrase. Let's try that again. Welcome back, everyone, to Orthodox Review, the most uneducated educational program here on the internet today. I'm your host, the guy with 1.5 thumbs, and I'm so happy that you could be here with us today. It's Saturday. It's a little overcast, got some nice sun coming in, doing natural light. But anyway, before we get into the episode, the obligatory shilling, Patreon, PayPal, Cashapp, yada, yada, yada. There's links below. There's still a GoFundMe happening for my medical expenses, and you will also find link below for a GoFundMe for the family of the reposed servant of God, Kenneth Cosperson, to whom this episode is dedicated. He was a faithful Orthodox Christian, devoted member of our parish here in Wilmington, and he was a good guy, and I miss him. Anyway, that out of the way, let's get into the episode. Now, this is the Divine Liturgy book we use at our parish here in Wilmington at St. Basil the Great. And this was put together by our priest, Father Andrew Cannon, back in, 2019? And it is far superior to, and I hate saying this, far superior to the St. Tikhon's book in several ways, and we will go over that. This was really a labor of love. And Father Andrew, like myself, is a pretty big book nerd when it comes to liturgical texts. It's one of our favorite subjects to discuss when we get together, and every time he comes over, he nerds out on my book collection. Every time I go over there, I nerd out about his book collection. It's pretty cool. He's a great priest, and I love him to death. And anyway, so let's get into this. So this was done a few years ago. It was before the publication of the latest liturgy book that we have now from St. Tikhon's. Being in the OCA, we go along with a certain translation. And because that didn't exist yet, we were still using the old greenbacks. Let me go grab my copy. We were still using these. Now, these were the older edition that we went over in a previous episode from 1984, which was based on, and I finally got my hands on one of these, the 1967. So before the inception of the OCA and ROCOR, before there was that divide, this was the book that was used. And so we were using this, and I'll be honest with you, it's still one of my favorite liturgy books because of its scope. Now, the reprint in 2010, which we also covered, was because this was in 2 volumes, Volume 1 and Volume 2. Volume 1 had the liturgy of St. John, and the second volume was the liturgies of St. Basil and the pre-sanctified liturgy, and so it was put into one. So in this one, you have all the parts for both the clergy and the laity for everything. And so what the new St. Tikhon's book did, and this happened after the fact, was removed the parts for the clergy and just had the parts for the laity. Meanwhile, the clergy parts could be found in the Hiereticon, which we also went over in previous episodes. And so now, while I do love the size of the St. Tikhon's, there are a few things that I took issue with that a lot of people took issue with. The first being, so we have the second antiphon, which it's not even the complete second antiphon. So let's look here in the St. Basil book at the second antiphon. And so right away, you've got the entire antiphon, Psalm 145. Plus, you have the dailies, the little litany, and all the exclamations. Whereas in the St. Ticons, it is truncated. So that was my first issue. Now, and we're going to go over all this stuff you see here in a minute. The second, and I would argue the more important issue here, was the selection of hymns in the St. Ticons. So you have from the Octoikos, which is fine, you have all eight tones, and that's great, along with the Prokeimenons and the Alleluias. You have the dailies, okay? But here is where I take issue. It jumps right to Lazarus Saturday. You have none of the hymns for Lent. And then we jump right into the Pentecostarian. Now, that's all nice and fine, but you really only have, like, Anipascha, Mid-Pentecost, and Ascension, Pentecost, and then some from the General Menaion. Now, okay, as a bare bones, that's all nice and fine. What do we have here? So, we have hymns from the Great Feasts, from the Triodian, Pentecostarian, the Eight Tones, and Weekday Liturgy, starting on page 79 and running all the way through page 154. So, and now we're going to break down everything. So, we have the 12 major feasts, okay? From the Triodian, we start with Harbinger Sundays, the Sunday of Orthodoxy, all the Sundays leading into Pascha, starting on page 105. So we have introductory notes, because Father Andrew is good like that, explaining everything. It will tell you what the Prokeimenon and the Alleluia is, because those are just the tones of the week, usually, unless otherwise noted. So here we have, for Sunday of the Last Judgment, you have the Prokeimenon and the Alleluia, clear, easy to read. Now, of course, because this is print on demand, you don't, it costs a lot more money to get, like, multiple colors, but he did a fantastic job of getting those all in there. And one thing that you'll start to notice here, now he spent a lot of time on the formatting and the flow of everything, and everything is separated nicely. And of course, the Orthodox Art Project was kind enough to let him use some artwork. So right there, that makes this the, in my humble opinion, superior liturgy book. Now, let's get into the liturgy itself as presented. Now, you saw where we compared the second antiphon. So let's get into the Divine Liturgy. We have the priest part. We have the litanies in their entirety. Now, these you will also find in the St. Ticons, the so-called secret prayers that are not so secret, as Father Andrew, much to my delight, and as was expounded upon by Father Thomas Hopko of blessed memory, these should not be said in secret. These are very important prayers that should be said out loud. The notes as to what goes where are clearly marked, and if there is any difference in something that should be changed, whether it's the festal antiphons, the daily antiphons, they will give you page numbers. And once again, here we are at the first antiphon. Everything is there. Now let's get to the anaphora. So when we get to the Trisagion, if there is any difference in the Trisagion, whether it's as many as have been baptized, or before thy cross, or Christ is risen, on 14th September and third Sunday of Lent, before that cross. So and all the notes, like he spent a lot of time on this. And honestly, I'm a little bummed that this wasn't consulted and taken into consideration when the St. Ticons was being edited. The Augmented Litany, and you'll recognize a lot of the artwork that was used in this book from many of St. Ticon's publications, as well as many others. The Orthodox Art Project did a fine job of making some universal artwork that a lot of publications use. And here's the anaphora. Now, everything the priest and choir and faithful do is here. Nothing is left out. Nothing is kept secret. It's all there. Because the idea of having a liturgy book on hand is that you can follow along, so that you can deepen your faith. And as you can see, even though it's print on demand, the binding holds pretty well. It's sewn and glued, like, or staple sewn at least. And there it is. And so even for Holy Communion, and I love this, that he included this, that the priestly prayers of the fraction and the division of the Lamb is all here for the faithful to understand and read. And then, much like with the St. Ticons, the liturgy for St. Basil, so we pick up after the Augmented Litany, and so instead of reprinting the whole liturgy, you just have the different parts. So all the translations here are pretty much right on with the Hieraticon and the old service books that we've shown. What's cool for us as a community here at St. Basil's is that, and we'll go back to the antiphons for this, because it's really where the difference is between this and some others, is that the text for the antiphons we use are derived from the music books that we use. You'll find that occasionally in other publications, they've maybe changed the translation a little bit, even from what is published, but we use the music from the Divine Liturgy Book, music book that was published by St. Vladimir's, I believe. And so for us as a community to have a liturgy book that this is the exact words that we're supposed to be using. There is no deviation there. And so for us, that's a nice treat. Now, we'll go over the leaf a little bit here, because it's useful. I, for one, don't like dust jackets, but Father did a fine job of making use of the inside of the dust jacket instead of putting like silly notes or whatever here. Everything is useful. The Troparion and Kontakion to St. Basil. Steadfast Protectress. The prayer before Holy Communion that we all say out loud during the liturgy. So, like, all the major stuff that, every member of the parish should know is right there. And like I said, the only real issue I have with this volume is the size. I prefer a smaller book. But, you know what? It's laid out so perfectly, and then, there's old folks there, there's young folks there, people with bad eyesight, people that just need to be able to read easy. It's a perfect size, and really, it's not too far off from the old greenback. It's maybe 3/4 of an inch taller, but a 1/2 inch slimmer. And when it comes to page numbering, not too far off. All in all, Father Andrew did just a stupendous job with this book, and you can get this book. We're not the only parish in the Diocese of the South that uses this. There are other parishes in the Diocese of the South that use Father Andrew's book. And of course, it is blessed by our dear Bishop Alexander, who uses the Athos Simonos Petra Hieraticon when he serves, but that's another episode coming up shortly. But hey, if you want a copy, check out below. we'll get you one. And yeah, it was a really great companion piece to the services for the layman that he published. The daily cycle that we used during the lockdown. I'll probably do a proper episode on that, but if you want to go back and look at the lockdown episodes, there's plenty of that in there. But at any rate, yeah, it's a great, it just, I don't know, perfect is a strong word, but you know what? When it comes to independently published liturgy books, I think Father Andrew kind of set the bar pretty high. The Diocese of the South OCA website and oca.org reference Father Andrew's book when presenting texts. I think that speaks volumes to his diligence of work and his dedication to our most holy liturgies. At any rate, that's it from me. Questions, comments, and queries, comments below. Hit me up by email. We have a Discord. That's a thing. Come join our Discord. I'm not around a lot. I don't get a whole lot of free time to fart around on social media, but I try to be there. And as always, on behalf of Spooky Cat, her mom, and myself, please continue to pray for me. I'm trying to pray for you. And don't forget to go to church. Hey, say your prayers and remember God. God bless you all. Christ is risen. Indeed he is risen.